Email, fantastic way to keep customers loyal. How many of us have signed up to an email newsletter? A few of us, okay, most of us here, great. Even if you're a traditional business, email is a fantastic way to get into the inbox of your target user. There's a lot of spas. There's a great newsletter that I'm part of at a local spa actually down the street called Pure and Simple. They'll send out monthly, monthly notices on deals and so forth that are happening at the spa. It can be a local car dealership. It could be that bake shop. It could be your sportswear store, etc. It's a great way to get people on the go as well, because many people are receiving email on their mobile device, of course, BlackBerry, iPhone. You can promote all of your other media through email marketing, which is great. You can have that really interesting quote that's on your blog, or come visit us in store, or check out this article that Food Network wrote. All of that can be done in a very simple email. And again, a great way to drive folks to your Facebook page, Twitter, blog. MailChimp.com. Great site if you want to use email as a way to market to your users. It's free to sign up, and then they have various packages that you can purchase. And excellent way for a local business, cost-effective, to reach a broad audience.
What a great name.
MailChimp, yeah. And for surveys, surveymonkey.com is great.
Amazing.
So if you have a bunch of people that have signed up to your local business email blast, and I don't recommend doing more than one a week, if that, maybe one a month, depending on how much valuable content you have. If you have a group of those loyal users, SurveyMonkey is a great way to ask them questions about your business. How are we doing? What would you change? What would make our product or service more relevant to you? You can also get even more personal. What is your income? Where do you live? This sort of thing, depending on your relationship with that user. You can incentivize. Maybe you offer them coffee or something. Maybe it's for some of our businesses that I deal with at Mars, they'll offer them a tablet if they complete a 10-minute survey. It's that important to understand their user. It's incredibly important. Yes, sir. SurveyMonkey.com. Yeah. Definitely brands that you would remember, right? It's part of the reason why they chose those names. So again, social media is really critically important. It allows you to connect and engage. It's low cost. It allows for social endorsement. And by social media, I'm talking about Tumblr, Facebook, LinkedIn, Flickr. And so a great tool to learn everything you need to know about these, or most of the stuff that you need to know about those social media, is HubSpot. HubSpot.com is incredible. Lots of free resources for you. It'll tell you how to build a Facebook fan page. It'll tell you what you should include in a blog, what length it should be, how to promote the blog, how to use LinkedIn. LinkedIn, for me, I think is one of is a blue ocean in terms of a marketer's paradise. There's not a lot happening, but there's millions of Canadians and global folks on LinkedIn that are visiting on a daily basis. They have an incredible advertising platform, incredible way to reach your users, highly, highly targeted. They know a lot about their users because you're basically putting your resume on LinkedIn. You're connecting at groups. They know exactly what you're doing on a daily basis. So LinkedIn is a great way to reach your target user, especially if you are an enterprise and business to business. It's fantastic. What else? In terms of, this is hard to read, I'm sorry, it's from Excel. But in terms of starting simple, so what does, to kind of summarize what I've been talking about, how do you take all of those slides and all of this messaging and all of these tactics and make it relevant for you? The way you do that is by starting with a plan. And it can be in Excel, it can be in Word. And it's quite simple. You list your objectives. So if you're a new business, it could be, and the more specific you get, so SMART objectives, measurable, actionable, results-oriented, etc. I missed a couple of letters, sorry. So you put your objectives, right? Your audience that you're targeting.
That was subconscious.
Yeah, oh really? I did, okay, yeah.
More or less.
Right, which originally stood for medical related sciences, it's now just Mars. But so objectives, who your audience is, where you're going to locate and target them. You can do this on one page. What tactics are you going to use? So I've been babbling on here for 30 minutes about all these tactics. But put them down on paper. What is the messaging for each? How are you going to use them? How much money are you spending per tactic? Just start organizing your thoughts on that one-page marketing plan. And then, as I mentioned before, test, test, test. So get out. You don't have to do everything at once. Maybe you take a week and decide, okay, for this week, I'm going to blog about my business and target key media and key influencers, writers, journalists, print, out of home, wherever, with my strong, validated key positioning statement. That's all I'm going to do for a week. I'm going to do it 2 hours a day, in the morning and maybe at night, or 1 hour in the morning, one hour in the dinner, 5 to 7 period. And I'm going to see what kind of results I get out of that. You take the results, figure out which blog worked the best, figure out which messaging worked the best, repeat it again next week. Maybe bite off a little bit more. Okay, is there an event that's coming up that I can attach myself to, that I can sponsor, that I can be a part of? Maybe that's another way. Again, after the event, measure, was this successful? Media buying and print, TV, same thing. So take off, if you've never done a marketing plan or executed a marketing plan, don't bite off more than you can chew. Take bits and pieces of it, tack it, but get it down on paper and do something. So I'm guilty of talking a lot about it, but with clients I actually have to get in there and build this. You have to roll up your sleeves and you have to test the messaging, test the results, and there's lots of ways you can do that. You can do that through metrics, there's Google Analytics. If you have a website or mobile device, there's something called mixpanel.com, which is amazing for measuring the success. There is a marketing automation service called highrise.com that is fantastic. So make sure that you have that one-page plan. Just a one-page plan and start there. And I think that's it for me. You can follow me on Twitter at Cowboy Tweets. I have some business cards. I'll stick around after. Feel free to chat with me. I'll bring up Miriam to kind of wrap it up.
Yeah, and we're going to have questions which Nathan will help me answer. So we'll have a Q&A session. So thank you, Nathan. I actually wish I'd had my phone out because there's a couple of them I was writing down. Mixpanel?
Mixpanel.com.
Okay, I need that one. One of the key things that you will find in this area is it is changing by the minute and by the day. So I have to say, anybody who's in this room already gets that, because you're coming to the library on a Saturday afternoon to learn. And so I tell a lot of people, keep learning, continuously improve, watch what you're doing. You're already doing that, but in this particular area, it is key. So once your marketing VP, or the day, Tuesdays, which is your marketing day, has done really well, and now it's Wednesdays and probably the rest of your week, which is working on selling, you have to take all of that interest and opportunity, and hopefully you've driven that person to actually start moving into the one-on-one sales process. They've walked into your store, they've sent you a request for a brochure, they've given you a phone call, or they've done something that you now have a chance to do that. And you'll remember that I talked to you a little bit about it's a science, not an art. So Nathan's talked a lot about, use the analytics and the tools to know which ones are using and not using. One of the best VP of marketing I ever had, who worked in my team, and I learned a lot from her, the first month that she got there, every other marketing person I'd ever worked with, the first thing they said to me was, well, how much budget do I have, right? Mm-hmm. And she didn't say that. She didn't even ask. She told me she didn't need as much money as I had originally put aside. She said to me, how much money have you got in the budget for next quarter? I said, I've got this much money. She said, actually, I don't think I need that much money right now. And she right away came out and said, talked about cost per lead. And we were going to trade shows, and we were sending out flyers, and then we were doing Google optimization. And within the first week, she came back and she said, the cost per sales lead when you go to a conference is $787 per sales lead. The cost for a lead coming in through an email newsletter is $5. I'm going to stop doing that, and I'm going to start doing that. And if you give me a budget of $1,000, 1,000 divided by 5 is 200? No. Yeah, 200. Jeez. Sorry, it's Saturday afternoon. If you give me $1,000, I'm going to give you 200 leads next month. And then the salespeople got 200 leads. So you really have to use the techniques. Now it comes over to the sales guy, and you get a really great salesperson. And you know, the first salesperson that the number one warning I have when I get to salespeople is you say, oh, you know, Nathan's a really great sales guy. For every 10 opportunities that he has in his leads and opportunities that he closes 8 of them. So remember how I told you about that 20 to 1? His was 8 out of 10. Well, that's bad. That's totally bad. And the reason that's bad is you either have not enough sales leads, and so you're giving it away for nothing. It's so valuable and compelling, or he's working so hard. He spent 6 months providing so much service to sell you a $10 item that you can't actually make money on that process, right? On the other side of the thing, if I give him 200 sales leads and he only gets 1 closed, then I need 20, you know, your VP of sales or your person comes and says, well, I need 100 salespeople to get a $50 sale. Well, that doesn't work either, right? You've got to have the right ratio. The way you get to the right ratio is you plan. You figure out how to be effective and what works well. So if I go and I'm talking to you at a trade show and I think I'm going to get a thing and it takes me 6 months and it's thousands of dollars to sell you, and on the other side you're in my Facebook fan page and you're following what I'm doing and I'm posting a few articles and I'm educating you and you come and talk to me, you know, you click in and you buy within a month. Those 2 examples can teach me as a company that I should be doing this and not that. And so the way you have to do that is you have to plan out a sales process, you try, and as Nathan says, you validate what works. Then you try the next technique and you validate what works. And you create process so you can do that over and over again. And if you're trying to build a company, if you're trying to run your own business just as a sole proprietor, then you can just work on your own. But if you're trying to build a business that's going to grow over time, in the startup that I'm doing right now, we just hired our first salesperson. He starts on Wednesday. And the number one thing that I have to do with that salesperson is he works in the States, he lives in the States, and so he's coming into the office, he's going to spend 3 days in the office, and I'm going to do all kinds of training. And then he's going to leave. And in 3 months, hopefully when my business has grown enough that I hire number 2 salesperson, right now all the sales information's in my head, and I did a really good job of teaching Carl. So 3 months from now, all the sales information's in Carl's head. Person number 3 comes in the door and he's not benefiting. And when you're validating, somehow you have to figure out how you get Miriam's knowledge and Nathan's knowledge and Carl's knowledge. So building those shared tools so that people can share the information. One of the best things you can do with salespeople, for example, is you'll have a little chat area in your company where you do objection handling. So you teach the salesperson, and you know, usually what I used to say is I'd say, oh, if you have a question from a customer, just call me and I'll tell you how to give the answer to that question. Or if you have a question from the customer, send me an email and I'll reply. Which is great because 3 months later when Steve joins, Carl's got all these emails with all the answers. But now that's not what you do. You create a wiki or you create a chat area where all that information is there. And when Steve joins, you say, go to that and all of the questions and answers and any objections that Carl ever had in the first 3 months of his job were asked and answered there. So you have to create the tools and the processes to make it work so that you can scale your company. Because getting salesperson number 2, salesperson number 3, and scaling is very important. So it's just like building your product or doing logistics fulfillment or working through, you need a process for it. One of the things that's important to understand as a sales is kind of when you first start, you think, okay, someone said did a contact me form on the website and they said contact me. And then you think, oh great, he's going to buy. And when he doesn't buy, you get disappointed. It's important to remember that there's a filtering process, and when you go through that filtering process, so Nathan's done a great job on the marketing campaign, but just because I went shopping for landscaping is kind of a pet project for me, because right now if you went by my house you'll see that there's scaffolding in front, because John and my husband and I are trying to finish the front of the house, and we're entrepreneurs so we have to do it ourselves because we have no money to do it with. And I've been trying to replace the wood steps for like 10 years now. So I've been getting landscaping quotes, but I haven't closed yet, not because the guy didn't do a great job. Yeah. I haven't closed it because the guy didn't sell it to me properly. I haven't closed it yet because I haven't got the budget yet. I'm still hoping, but I keep getting quotes for those landscaping because maybe this year it'll happen. So there's a percentage process through, right, of what the likelihood is. And people use a percentage likelihood. So you should try to categorize where people are in the sales process. Prospects, validated prospects. Okay, so a prospect is somebody who calls you up and says that I'm interested. A validated prospect is, I have a specific need, and this is, the prospect could go away, no, I don't need that service, that's the wrong thing for me. Or he says, I have a specific need, I have budget, I'm going to do this project this year, and you say, oh great, then he's validated. Once you get through to qualified and down to the bottom, he's actually asked you for a quote, you've given him a proposal, he's come back and asked you questions for it. So I had a call yesterday. I was talking to a guy in Ames, Iowa, about selling him an off-grid street light. And he asked me 5 or 10, that's what our product is in our company. He asked me 5 or 10 questions about the product. He said, well, does it do this? And we do this, and we do this, and we do this. And we went all the way through the conversation, and he never asked me the price. He said, well, thank you very much. If there's any other information I need, I'll let you know. I'll give you a call. But he didn't ask me the price. Think it's a qualified lead?
That's close, because he's not as concerned about price.
No, no.
Oh, it's
Have you ever bought?
Potential competitor.
It was the town of Ames, so I knew who it was. But yes, it could be a competitor. But he should have asked me the price. He should have gotten to, for that particular product, every time I sell, somebody generally will say, well, how much do one of these things cost? What's the range, right? He didn't get there. So actually this morning when I was in the shower, I figured out why he didn't get there. And I'm going to call him on Monday because he should be asking me that question. So I think I figured out why I lost him.